By the way, I never went to the island, and Bill Clinton went there supposedly 28 times. I never went to the island, but Larry Summers, I hear, went there. He was the head of Harvard. And many other people that are very big people. Nobody ever talks about them. I never had the privilege of going to his island. And I did turn it down, but a lot of people in Palm Beach were invited to his island. In one of my very good moments, I turned it down. I didn't want to go to his island.
The president just said that he didn't have the privilege of going to Jeffrey Epstein's island. And in one of his better moments, he turned down the opportunity to go to Jeffrey Epstein's island. He's saying this now. I mean, he can't write it off as, I said that back when I didn't know what was going on at the island. He knows what it is that Jeffrey Epstein was up to. He knows that his right-hand woman, Ghislaine Maxwell, was all a part of this whole thing. He knows all that stuff and still has the nerve to sit in front of folks and say, I didn't have the privilege of making it to the island. I would have loved to have, but that's a privilege that I turned down in one of my better moments. In my worst moments, I did the complete opposite, but there was one time that I said, no, not today, Jeffrey. Maybe not this time. But again, as I pointed out, Ghislaine Maxwell was his right-hand person in this whole thing. And they had that meeting with her at the end of the week where his Justice Department officials went and met with her in private as they talk about some new information that they're going to need from her that's going to help him continue to cover this whole thing up. So I'm glad that they do things like this. But on Meet the Press, Mike Johnson, his number one lackey and dog that sits under his feet and licks them every day, Mike Johnson went on Meet the Press and had to answer for this.
Listen, this week, President Trump didn't rule out a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell. Of course, that's one of the big questions looming over all of this. So let me put this to you, Mr. Speaker. Would you support a pardon or a commutation for Ghislaine Maxwell, a convicted sex trafficker?
Well, I mean, obviously, that's a decision of the president. He said he had not adequately considered that. I won't get in front of him. That's not my lane. My lane is to help direct and control the House of Representatives and to use every tool within our arsenal to get to the truth. I'm going to say this as clearly and plainly and repeatedly as I can over and over. We are for maximum disclosure. We want all transparency. I trust the American people. I and the House Republicans believe that they should have all this information to be able to determine what they will. But we have to protect the innocent. And that's the only safeguard here that we've got to be diligent about. And I'm insistent upon doing so.
Well, I guess my question is, are you open to a pardon or commutation? I mean, Mr. Speaker, the victims referred to Maxwell as Epstein's right-hand woman. Here's what one victim who testified under a pseudonym told the court at sentencing, quote, "The many acts that were perpetrated on me by Epstein, including rape, strangulation, and sexual assault, were never consensual and would not have occurred had it not been for the cunning and premeditated role Ghislaine Maxwell played." Is that someone deserving of a pardon or commutation in any circumstance, Mr. Speaker?
If you're asking my opinion, I think 20 years was a pittance. I think she should have a life sentence at least. I mean, think of all these unspeakable crimes. And as you noted earlier, probably 1,000 victims. I mean, it's hard to put into words how evil this was, and that she orchestrated it and was a big part of it. At least under the criminal sanction, I think is an unforgivable thing. So, again, not my decision, but I have great pause about that, as any reasonable person would.
Right off the top, he doesn't want to get ahead of the president. I want you guys to stop and think about it for a second. So, Speaker of the House, a pretty powerful position, let's keep it real, is talking about how he has no concern, or he at least has no lane there. It's above his pay grade to talk about whether or not Ghislaine Maxwell, who he just said should probably be under the prison, could potentially get pardoned by his best friend. Doesn't that change the way you feel about your best friend, the guy that you worship? Why doesn't that change your belief system about the way he does things and probably why he's trying to cover this up? Because, again, this is the same guy who said, if you want to get my approach on how I should legislate and how I should lead as a politician, just open up the Bible.
I am a Bible-believing Christian. Someone asked me today in the media, they said, it's curious, people are curious, what does Mike Johnson think about any issue under the sun? I said, well, go pick up a Bible off your shelf and read it. That's my worldview.
We all know there's that part of the Bible where you support a guy who's obviously, as you point out, this disgusting act that he's covering up, that you support him, instead of actually supporting a change to that, or maybe the exposure of that whole thing. Because there's a reason why he said he didn't want to get ahead of Trump on this, is because Trump already made that decision. I feel like Mike Johnson knows this.
Mr. President, you completely rule out a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell when you landed. Is that something you would ever consider, and why?
Pardon for who?
For Ghislaine Maxwell.
Well, I'm allowed to give her a pardon, but nobody's approached me with it. Nobody's asked me about it. It's in the news about that aspect of it, but right now it would be inappropriate to talk about it. So
that was his answer to the question of whether or not he's thinking about or considering giving Ghislaine Maxwell a pardon for her child sex trafficking conviction, where she's been up for 20 years in jail. He can do it. He says, I have the right to. I mean, I can easily pardon her. It all just depends on how long you guys are going to keep talking about this and cornering me on it, because I'll do anything to save my ass from this whole thing. I don't care how blatantly, explicitly cover up this looks like. I'm willing to do it because I can. Think about what's in exchange for this pardon that Donald Trump said that he has every right to give Ghislaine Maxwell. That's her giving information that I guess he would deem to be accurate and whatever it is that may help him. Let's go back to Mike Johnson, because he was asked that question about whether or not they can trust what Ghislaine Maxwell will tell them.
Do you think that Ghislaine Maxwell can be trusted?
Well, I mean, look, it's a good question. I hope so. I hope that she would want to come clean. We certainly are interested in knowing everything that she knows. And as you'll note, in our House Republican majority, we're working towards that. Chairman Comer and our Oversight Committee has already issued their own subpoena. They want to bring in Ghislaine Maxwell as well. I hope she's telling the truth. She is convicted. She is serving a 20-year sentence for child sex trafficking. And so her character is in some question. But if she wants to come clean now, that would be a great service to the country, and we'd like to know every single bit of information that she has. I certainly hope she's telling the truth.
He's just pending the approval from his deity, Donald Trump, to whether or not he should trust Ghislaine Maxwell, and also pending the approval from his deity, Donald Trump, that'll then tell them, yo, I'm going to pardon her, so you guys should get on board with that too, because if you don't, I'm coming for you. I mean, kind of like how, fascists work when they're covering up their crimes, no matter how gruesome and disgusting they are. The same crimes that they said were gruesome and disgusting, and we're going to get all those guys that I don't like that'll be on that list. But when Joe Biden disgustingly pardoned folks that are involved in things like this, Mike Johnson was saying he can't take this. This is disgusting.
It was shocking. I mean, it was shocking what President Biden did on the way out, pardoning his family for more than a decade of whatever activity, any nonviolent offenses. It was breathtaking to us. I don't think that's anything like that's ever been anticipated. And by the way, go look at the tape, 4 years ago, when it was just implied that President Trump might do something similar. They were apoplectic. Joe Biden himself, Adam Schiff, Chuck Schumer, roll the tape. They all said that would be crazy and unconscionable, and now they're cheering it along. To us, it is disgusting.
Let's remind you guys of who Ghislaine Maxwell is, and the person that Donald Trump said he can pardon, and the same person that Mike Johnson said that he hopes he can trust in her testimony to get off the hook for all the things that she did. Ghislaine Maxwell trained underage girls as sex slaves, is what these documents allege. Pretty disgusting. Someone should ask Mike Johnson again under those types of terms whether or not he can trust her, or whether or not he thinks it's okay for Donald Trump to pardon her in order to try and save his ass, which no one's going to believe. Look, this lie has gone for this long. Whatever it is that they come up with, whatever scheme he has in place after he's berated his followers for wanting more information, whatever scheme they've got to go for this, to try and clear Donald Trump's name, nobody is going to believe it. Nobody's going to believe it. What reason do they have to believe it? Here's Virginia Guthrie, who tragically is no longer with us, who was the biggest vocal voice that came out, who was a victim of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, talking about who Ghislaine Maxwell is, the same person that Mike Johnson isn't sure if he can trust, but he hopes that he can.
She is a monster. She's worse than Epstein. She did things even worse than Epstein did. She was vicious. She was evil, and she was a woman.
Her lawyers have said Ghislaine Maxwell is not a Jeffrey Epstein, that she has been a victim of media spin.
They're doing their job, but I know that woman. I've known her really well. Put it this way. Epstein was Pinocchio, and she was Geppetto. She was the guy controlling
the strings.
Jeffrey. Yep, she was pulling the strings. She had his money. He had her contacts. But Ghislaine was much more conniving and smart than Epstein ever was. She did it because she loves the control over people. Jeffrey was a sick pedophile, but she was the mastermind.
What would justice look like for you when it comes to Ghislaine Maxwell?
I would like to see Ghislaine stay in jail forever.
That's the same woman who it was either late last year or this year, passed away, deemed a suicide, and she had said before, "If anything happens to me, I'm not suicidal." That's just the part that I'd heard. I'm not sure how long ago that was or if things had changed, but that's become the official conclusion to her after she was very much vocal, talked to so many different outlets, and became the face of many of the survivors of this sex trafficking ring. And she's no longer with us. And she told us who Ghislaine Maxwell is. But Mike Johnson isn't sure yet.